Good afternoon. My name is John Raines. I'm Vice Chairman and Chief Operating Officer for Pepsi Mid-America. We would like to thank everyone for being here today. This building is our fleet building. It's named after two brothers, Loy and Ernie Burns, who together were service technicians for a combined service of 73 years. So that in itself is newsworthy. Today, I'd like to recognize a couple of members from our city government, our Chief of Staff, Cody Moak, and of course to my left, our Mayor, Mike Epsher. Thank you, gentlemen. Today, it is a pleasure to host Governor Pritzker. Recently, the governor announced a one-year freeze in the inflationary increase in the motor fuel tax. As you look around, you can see we are heavily invested in the trucking business. We have over 250 motor vehicles, and our company uses a large volume of motor fuel. The annual savings in the motor fuel tax for us and for those other industries in the trucking business will be very helpful. At this time, it is my pleasure to welcome Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Thank you very much, John. Well, thank you very much, John, and it's great to see everybody out here today. It's about 10 degrees warmer than I expected, I have to admit, and I had hoped maybe we could do this outside, but maybe right now we can all just, no, we'll stay where we are. Thank you, and thanks to Pepsi Mid-America. We joined together in 2019, you may recall, to welcome hundreds of production jobs here with the opening of Halfway Road. Today, despite the challenges of the pandemic over the last 2 years, we take another step forward for working families. I'd like to thank Mayor Mike Epsher for hosting us here in Marion today, as he has actually each time I've been to Marion, and thank you for your leadership. And also joining us, of course, are Clint Walker of the Egyptian Trades, Jason Ashmore from the Teamsters, and Jerry Womack with the laborers. With world oil prices up significantly, here in Marion and around the United States, prices at the pump over the last several months have soared. In Europe and in Asia, they're hitting all-time highs, and Illinois families are feeling the pinch too. We can't pick the ways the pandemic affects our lives, but what government must do is to soften the impact in the ways that we can. So I'm asking the General Assembly to work with me to freeze the gas tax this year, holding the rates flat at the pump and putting $135 million back in people's pockets. We're able to do this because our high-quality union road workers across the state have been so efficient in repairing and rebuilding and improving our transportation corridors, over 3,300 miles of roads and 320 bridges in just the last 2.5 years. Illinois now has the #1 ranked infrastructure in the nation. I'm going to say that again because I know people are surprised to hear that, but we are #1 among the 50 states. We've been ranked as such by CNBC in terms of our infrastructure. Between the hard work of our laborers, of our workers, and the federal infrastructure funding, we have the means to press ahead with all of the projects that the motor fuel tax funds normally would allow us to, without the need for any increase this year. So this year, we are holding the line and offering a reprieve for rising prices for Illinois families. It will bring immediate relief to everyone at the gas pump without delaying a single infrastructure project. This tax cut is just one aspect of my $1 billion Illinois Family Relief Plan. We'll also cut the state tax on groceries this coming fiscal year, putting an additional $360 million back in the pockets of Illinois residents. And we're providing crucial help to homeowners through a new property tax rebate, giving them back approximately $300 a year. And we're going to do it all while building back up our rainy day fund, while paying our past due bills that have plagued taxpayers for too long, and reducing our state's pension liability. Now, I came into office with a promise to do what's right for working families. And as rising prices squeeze the pocketbooks of residents all across the nation, that mission has never been more important. State government's responsibility is as straightforward as it is essential. Alleviate pressure on families wherever we can. Increase support for residents who need it most. And everywhere, every day, be there for the people that we serve. So I want to thank you all again, and with that, I'd like to turn it over to someone who has been instrumental in helping us get this state moving in the right direction, and that's our great Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton. Juliana?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Governor Pritzker, for that warm introduction. But more importantly, thank you for your unwavering commitment to supporting Illinois families through smart and compassionate policymaking. I'd also like to thank John Raines of Pepsi Mid-America and his team for their longstanding support of the workers and communities that are the life force of Marion. They are the ones who work every day to drive our state forward, and they deserve a government that works for them. Good government responds to the pressing issues affecting residents today while paving the way for a more secure future. Under Governor Pritzker's leadership, that is precisely what is outlined in the Illinois Family Relief Plan. Nearly $1 billion in relief for taxpayers by easing the burden at the grocery store counter, on the property tax bill, and yes, at the gas pump. These bold measures ensure all of Illinois can be on the road to economic recovery, especially the communities that have felt the burden of inflation the most. As chair of the Governor's Rural Affairs Council, I have traveled across the state and heard residents in our rural areas talk about the greatest barriers they face in attaining a good quality of life. From receiving health care to even getting food, getting to the resources they need remains a challenge because they can't afford the long distances. So we responded, and the Illinois Family Relief Plan builds upon our ongoing efforts to support our most vulnerable during these unprecedented times. We have invested millions into infrastructure and broadband expansion to close those gaps. And paired with a freeze on the gas tax, we're telling our rural and working families, we see you and we are working for you. Thank you so much, and now I'll pass it back to the governor to answer questions. Thank you.
Happy to take any questions from members of the media. Yes, sir.
First, I have a question regarding the gas tax, and I have a follow-up question regarding COVID. Some advocates of your rebuild Illinois plan are afraid that freezing this tax will cause construction delays. How will you work to avoid that?
There will be no construction delays because, as I mentioned in my remarks, we're actually building on time, on budget, actually ahead of schedule in many cases. And we also have billions of dollars already, both from the federal government and from the Rebuild Illinois plan that we put in place. So there will be no slowdown, no projects will be missed, and as a result of that, we'll be able to provide some relief for families all across the state.
To my question regarding COVID, I know it's been a hot topic today specifically. The Saginaw County judge who deemed your mandates null and void said that, quote, this type of evil is exactly what the law was intended to constrain. What is your reaction to basically a judge calling your mandates evil, and also are you concerned that keeping these mandates may affect your re-election campaign?
Well, let me begin by just saying that the point of mitigations is to keep people healthy and alive. And better than any other state in the Midwest, we've done that. We have more people vaccinated on a per capita basis than any other state in the Midwest. We've kept our hospitals from overflowing, and therefore people who have heart attacks or in car accidents can get help when they need it. So the point of the mitigations is to keep the significant sickness down, to keep the number of people from getting COVID down, and to keep our schools open and to keep our businesses open across the state. That's the whole point. And masks actually are just one of several tools that we have used. Vaccines are hugely important. Testing has been very important. Masks reduce transmission, especially I think all of you experienced Omicron was spreading like wildfire. And being able to keep our masks on and put our masks on as we did back last fall. Remember, we didn't have masks on during the summer. I don't know if you remember, because it seems like an awful long time ago, but things got so good at the end of the spring in terms of low transmission rates that we took our masks off, and we had at least 6-8 weeks there where nothing bad was happening with any of the variants. But thank goodness the people of Illinois put their masks back on at the right time. And that kept us from having the problems that many other states around us and other states in the country had. So I'm very proud of where we've landed here. What the comments of the judge in the case, look, I think it was improperly decided. Most legal observers have said so. It's one circuit court in one location that made this decision. There's an appeal that's going on right now, so we hope that we'll be able to get that reversed relatively quickly. It was a TRO, by the way, a temporary restraining order that she ruled on, not on the case itself. And so we're trying to have that reversed, and then the case will go ahead and get heard. Well, the important thing is that we're hoping that the appeals court hears that case quickly. Because as you've seen, her decision, the judge's decision, has really thrown some chaos on top of what is already challenging at schools. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that one of the results of the decision she made is you'll have schools that actually go remote as a result of people taking their masks off and having higher transmission rates. I hope that's not the case, but that could be the result. And don't forget, schools, for all of us, are centers of our communities. So parents and grandparents of students, teachers and staff members, the students themselves, really hundreds, thousands of people are interacting with each school, and they're going out in the community. And so if we can keep the transmission low in schools, we can keep transmission low often in communities. So we're going to keep fighting hard to make sure that we're doing the right thing for people. Look, I also want to remind everybody of one very, very important thing, which is we have fought against the variants as they've come and gone. But when they come, we need to be able to use mitigations to help us get through it. What this judge's decision would do is take away one of the tools. We have vaccines, testing, masks, treatments, which are becoming much more widespread. Those are all tools that we can use. Taking away masks is taking away a serious tool in our fight against the virus. Yes, sir.
Is there a fear of falling into a pattern like we did last summer where you lifted the mandate in May, you had to reinstate it in August, and where do we have, how much do infections have to drop before we can see potentially the guidelines relaxed? Something you mentioned, you want these masks off as soon as you can.
I do, and let me repeat that. I think we all want to be able to remove masks when we're indoor, as soon as possible. I am first among them. But it's also our job to keep everybody healthy and make sure that we're doing the right thing. I think in many situations, certainly when you're outdoors, when you're at your own home with people that you spend your time with, people don't need to wear masks. But as long as there is significant transmission, it's important that people gathering together indoors do wear masks. And I can see that almost everybody here is wearing a mask, which is terrific. So I would say as hospitalizations are falling, and they are falling significantly right now, as we move forward, I've been consulting with IDPH, with Dr. Ezike, and with the epidemiologists across the state of Illinois to try to determine exactly when and how we can remove masks.
Many restaurants, like a lot of businesses, are having trouble getting workers. Some restaurants are closing because of the shortage of workers.
Yeah.
What are you willing to do to help in those situations?
Well, we certainly, as you know, are providing grants to restaurants and bars, continuing to do that. We've been doing that for quite some time during the pandemic to help out. The shortage of workers is really an interesting and strange phenomenon. I think everybody has been following it. People are going back to work. People have gone back to work, but and as more and more nearly back to where we were before the pandemic started in terms of employment. So the question is, with all of the help wanted signs that are out there, what does that mean? How are we going to fill those jobs? And that's a phenomenon happening all over the country. So we're all looking at ways. It's a great time to be a worker bargaining for your job, I might add, because companies need you. And companies, of course, are finding new ways to manage through this challenge of not having enough workers available. So there's a lot of innovation going on. I think it's a terrific thing. I encourage it. I also encourage people who have been thinking about getting back to work. Now is the great time to go to an employer and say, hey, I want a reasonable wage for the job that you're asking me to do.
Governor, I don't know if you heard about this plan Senate Republicans sent out, something counter to what you proposed. They proposed cutting the gas sales tax by 1% for the fiscal year. I don't know if you heard about that. And if you have, could you kind of explain anything you've heard about that and any other suggestions that you've heard from the Republican side?
Well, I want to remind you that it was Republicans actually who proposed not that long ago almost the same kinds of temporary tax relief that I'm proposing, and now they're opposed to what I've proposed. What I would say is the only way you can offer, and I want to offer as much tax relief as we can, the only way that we can offer tax relief is by getting our fiscal house in order, balancing our budget, which is what I've been doing for 3 years. It's a hard thing in the state of Illinois. It's been a difficult endeavor, and yet we've done that, and here in the last year, as a result of increased revenues, as a result of changes that we've made in the tax code, bringing down corporate loopholes and legalizing cannabis, which has brought in more revenue to the state, making sure that internet transactions have sales tax just like every other, so we can keep a level playing field for small businesses locally. All of those things have brought revenue into the state. That gives us the opportunity to have targeted tax relief. Particularly, I focus on property taxes. I think that's hugely important. We've got to keep moving on that front. And then again, on gas tax, on grocery tax, it's a good time with inflation rising, or at least high as it is now, for us to give some relief at the store counter.
We have time for one last question.
Yes, sir.
I had one follow-up question on teacher shortages.
Yeah.
Not necessarily restaurant, the teachers also feeling the brunt of this. Actually, the local ROE here, the Regional Office of Education, has instituted a program, which I believe is starting next week, maybe the following week, to encourage more substitute teachers to come in to Southern Illinois into the classroom. So just kind of elaborating on how programs like that might help alleviate these.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask the Lieutenant Governor to come up because that's something she's something of an expert about.
Thank you for that question. It's critically important. In fact, just this week, we saw a new study by the NEA that talked about how many teachers are feeling burned out, that they are stressed, and they are leaving the workforce at higher rates than have typically been the case. So our administration, and you certainly saw from the governor's proposed budget address last week, putting record investments into our education system, not just higher education or not just K through 12, but specifically also focusing on early childhood education. And I'm right now in the middle of a tour, a statewide tour, going to every public university to meet with the School of Education, the College of Education in some cases, to talk to those who are leading these programs, talk to students themselves about some of the challenges that they are facing. So we are not just putting more investments, we're also listening to the people that are impacted by this the most. We know that we appreciate our teachers. All of us are here today because we had a teacher, and we need to make sure that they not only feel appreciated through our words, but through the investments we make in education, as well as making sure that if there are policies that we can change to make sure that their workplace is more supportive for them, that we can do that. And that's something that we as a state are committed to.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.